But all right, this is the Cody Legebokoff case. So, what is it about? From Prince, Georgia, BC, stretches the highway of tears named after so many women went missing there. In this video, we will look at one of the serial killers who operated there, self-professed country boy, and Canada's youngest serial killer, Cody Legebokoff. All right, this guy has some Patreons, Twitters, and Instagram. If you're watching this on my video, look up that chapter, subscribe, and then check out all their links and give them likes, because that is what we do in this community. But we're gonna watch this video and see what this cat is all about. I'm kind of interested. Oh, whoa! Good thing I paused it. I almost spoiled it for myself. A little shaking on the mouse because I got a little dog Bakoff in my lap.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this whole video, it's been a while, it's been maybe even too long, some might say, since we have been to Canada. Every time I cover a story from there, it's always really weird, and this is just...
Yeah, the ones from Canada that he's covered are kind of wild. The last case he did, well, I watched it. It was in Greece. That one was sad, but
it's no exception. Throw another one on the pile. Mr. Legebokoff is quite the guy. Exceptional in too many negative traits to mention. This case has many links to one I talked about briefly before, like a long time ago. It's not even on the channel anymore. The Highway of Tears. I've been raging to cover that one again. And like I said, this has many links to it. There's a few tears in this one, but definitely none for old Cody Leggy. So let's give it a go.
It is really, I guess it's leggy, I don't know. Is he called him leggy because it's leg E right here?
Let's set the scene. And what a scene it is to set. The city of Prince George lies in the heart of British Columbia. That wild and kinda serial killery place. Goddamn, bit worrying.
Oh man.
Prince George is home to about 75.
One of the guys in that little panel that he showed, I'm pretty sure he like killed this woman or these people because he thought he was in Skyrim. I was like, oh my gosh.
1,000 people. And apparently, according to some people talking about the town on like Reddit, it's quite rednecky. Make of that what you will. But it's affordable, it's wild, you got hunting, fishing, quad biking, and a lot of forest. Though its crime rate, as of recent years, has been a bit uppity. And that's just in recent years, so whoa boy, right? The story I'm talking about isn't that recent, so...
I wonder why the crime rate is going up in that area. Is it just because there's a lack of opportunity and people just have nothing to do? And they just do bad things? Or...
So they've been, like, outdoing themselves since then. They're enhancing themselves. They thought serial killers? It's rookie numbers. In 2020, it was ranked the 19th most dangerous city in Canada. It got a medal for participating, but now it's going for gold. Though it's not the city of PG, that sure as shit ain't PG, that you gotta be trembling, in your boots about. It's the road. And much like the novel of the same name, it's, dangerous. So dangerous, it's called the Highway of Tears. Beginning in the south end of Prince George,
do people just like pick the highway because like there's a chance for someone like a highway like this? Let me clarify, because like it's like if someone's car breaks down, it's like just miles to just do whatever because Or do they like impersonate as police officers or park rangers or something? What is this? What is the thought? Why?
Is Highway 16. It slithers and snakes through remote, and I mean somewhere that's too isolated even for Bigfoot, countryside. What you have to have
It's
a go
totally
at
Sasquatch is doing.
there is essentially this. It journeys through wild country with great relish before reluctantly
8
entering
hours?
civilization. If I'm being generous, at Prince Rupert, a little seaport host to less than 15,000
Oh
people.
my goodness.
It's over 700
That's 8
kilometers,
hours of
450 miles of pure grade A Canadian wilderness. And when the cat's away, and by cats I mean cops, the mice will play. And by mice I mean sickos. Over the last 50 years, depending on which criteria you use, the number of women, primarily First Nations, who have disappeared along that lonely highway ranges from a dozen to possibly almost 100. No one really knows for sure. I personally would probably kind of point the finger towards the higher end, because the police simply do not give a shit.
Yeah, it looks like it. They don't seem to be.
As I said, I briefly touched on this topic before. It's a big one, and one I will certainly be revisiting. So, I won't delve too greedily or too deep, mining for misery. We'll get back to it. Today we're looking at one case in particular, or rather 4 cases which led to one.
4 cases that led to one person.
Our first began on the 9th of October 2009, when 35-year-old Jill Stacy Stuchenko disappeared from Prince George. Jill was reported missing by friends and family on the 22nd of that month, almost 2 weeks later. Jill was the mother of 5 children, all of whom were in state custody. As Jill, she was a sex worker and addicted to drugs, something she had tried time and time again to quit. But, like the tide, each time she washed out, she was pulled back in again. Despite her troubles, though, she was well liked, she was apparently, lovely to talk to, and had a fabulous voice. So, her disappearing was frightening. Even more so when she was found.
Oh, man.
On the 26th of October, a passing hiker discovered half-buried remains in a gravel pit just outside of town.
Wait, what?
It was quickly determined she had died violently, suffering massive blunt force trauma blows to the back and side of the head and to the face. Almost a year later, on the 31st of October 2010, another woman vanished from Prince George. This time, it was 23-year-old Natasha Lynn Montgomery. She was last seen in the north end of town. She was leaving a friend's house, and she vanished into the night. She was a sex worker. Police would say she was leading a high-risk lifestyle, but it wasn't like her to not check in with her family. And they later contacted the RCMP and reported her missing. And then, as you can imagine, things went into overdrive. You had your whirlybirds, you had your tanks, Inspector fucking Clouseau. Nah, it was more like just keep an eye out, few posters, and job well done. As usual, the family did all the heavy lifting. But she wouldn't be found. In fact, to this day, Natasha remains missing. It was over a week later that Cynthia Mass, 35 years old, she disappeared from Prince George once again. Cynthia, Cinderella she was known to her family as, disappeared on the 10th of September. She had become addicted to drugs, and with no escape from them. She ended up in an abusive relationship, pregnant, but escaped that and battled her addiction for the sake of her baby. A baby who was ultimately taken away, regardless. She was actually in the process of getting her child back, getting clean, when she disappeared. She vanished not too far from where Natasha did, in an area known to be frequented by sex workers just trying to get by. Cynthia was found on the 8th of October in L.C. Gun Park, on the other side of the Fraser River from Prince George. She, like Jill, had been beaten to death with some blunt weapon. massive trauma blows to the head. In 2010, Lauren Leslie was 15 years old, growing up with one sister and one brother. She grew up with her mother in Vanderhoof, a town about an hour up the Highway of Tears from Prince George. She was great, she was kind, she was good in school. She was also legally blind.
You would think that if you had a highway that was known as the Trail of Tears, not because of something historic, but because people come up missing up on that, you know, you would think people would be trying to prevent stuff like that happening. Or is it like the type of people that they do not care about, that they just allow this thing to happen to them because they're... Oh man, this Cody Legebokoff, man, he's no good, man.
She had 25% vision in one eye, 50 in the other, but that didn't hold her back from her dream of becoming a forensic pathologist. And so, as she had difficulty seeing and she kind of lived in the middle of nowhere, she spent most of her day on her computer, you know, online, chatting away with people from all over the world on all sorts of social media. And she was introduced to Nexopia, a Canadian social media site, a kind of a message board type kind of dealio. Lauren, her username was Ba the Sheep, and there was a lot of creeps on Nexopia. Definitely people that a young teenage girl should not be talking to.
Yeah.
And that is where she met a user called One Country Boy. And so to skip ahead for a moment, it was on the 27th of November 2010 that Lauren decided to, during the day, go and meet up with someone for coffee, someone from Nexopia. It was that night, after midnight, that Lauren's father got a call.
Wouldn't that person be tracked, like, if they just, like, get on the internet? Because this is 2010, and, like, we got cell phones and stuff. This cat not... Oh, man. But why? Because the cat was going after, like, one type of people. Oh, man. So was he... I wonder if he was meeting people off the site. Oh, man.
From the RCMP, asking if he knew where Lauren was.
Wait, what?
The reason they called him was that they had found her identification in a pickup truck off an old logging road on Highway 27.
Oh, my
What
gosh.
had happened that cold, November night was that an RCMP officer was just driving along at about 9:45 of the PM when he saw this like 2004 pickup truck barreling down like an old logging road. The cop thought to himself, well, what's this all about? And it was weird as shit. So the officer pulled him over and saw the driver. Name of Cody Legebokoff, 20 years old. Cody was covered in blood.
Oh, hell. Oh,
so Cody, in response to the obvious question, said to the officer, "Oh, what, this? Me and a friend, we just, we just clubbed a deer to death."
You clubbed a deer to death?
As you do. This is deer blood.
I don't know if I'm getting the story right or not, but just tell me what went on tonight. We were hunting deer.
You were hunting deer?
If we run this blood, if we do a forensic match on it, we're going to find out it's deer blood, right? I guess so, yeah.
You guess so.
It obviously is.
Okay. The officer thought that was odd. At the very least, he was a poacher, so he called for backup.
Yeah.
And the tracks of Cody's pickup were followed back into the woods. Easy enough to follow in the snow. And there they would eventually find the lifeless body of Lauren Leslie.
Oh my gosh.
Her pants were around her ankles, and her head had been bashed in. In the car, they found Lauren's backpack with her ID, Lauren Toes, which is Lauren's mother's maiden name. They also found her phone, a pipe wrench, and a knife, covered in blood.
Holy fuck.
At 12:07, Cody Allen Legebokoff was arrested and charged with murder.
He gonna sit, oh well, I said 11:11 right on time. But he gonna go over here and sit and say, this is dear blood. Me and a buddy clubbed a deer with... And over here, oh, we run this is gonna be deer blood. I guess so, homie. You should have just turned yourself in. It would have been a lot easier. You was big dumb on that one, man. What is you doing? Oh gosh. Let's keep going with this.
The only person at that point Cody wanted to talk to was his dad.
He only wanted to talk to his dad?
The time now is
He need to be talking to a
00:15
lawyer.
hours on the 28th of November 2010. I'm arresting you for the murder of Lauren Dawn Toes. I am investigating a murder.
But I did not murder anybody. I don't know why I'm in here.
I told you, you're under arrest for murder.
I did not murder anybody. I want to call my dad.
You have the right to call a lawyer right now. How old are you? You're an
I want
adult?
to call my dad.
You're an adult? So you have a right to call a lawyer right now. Do you want to call a lawyer?
I want to call my dad.
Daddy, get me out of this. What Cody said had happened was, well, that his story was true. Him and his friend had killed a deer. The reason they couldn't find a deer body was that Cody's friend, who, the deer, he had gone and picked up he dumped a body. That's why he wasn't around. He'd gone off with the body. As you do. But Cody said he had actually found Lauren's body. They'd killed a deer, beaten it to death, and then he stumbled across Lauren's body. He was like, oh shit. He didn't kill her, though. He just saw her body. And then...
Right.
Today's date is the 28th of November. 2000.
So when they book him, get the clothes for evidence, and it's the girls.
Sign your account 4753.
Won't be a good look.
Taking out the Cody. Legebokoff.
There are some circumstances which led us to put you into custody for the murder of a young girl, 15-year-old girl. Right. If this is the case, where there's some explanation here, I'm willing to listen to you.
Yeah, there is. I had found her there. And I got scared. And I seen it. Seen her stuff lying on the ground. And yeah, I decided to take off. It's like, fuck this. I'm calling it extremely bad timing. But I'm not gonna be saying anything else. Just so you know.
When I hear a story like this, man, it's a horrible thing to have happen to a person when you're a girl.
Of course.
Yeah. What kind of person would do something like that?
I know.
I'm asking you, what kind of person do you think would do something like that?
Obviously, not a good person.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to wrap your head around, eh?
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything that would motivate a person to do something like that? What would cause a person to do that?
Well, I don't know.
Maybe it was bad timing, but I don't know about all that.
Cody was 20 years old, living in Prince George with his girlfriend, and he worked as a mechanic at a car dealership in town, the Ford dealership in town. He had no history of crime and had never once popped up on the police radar before. He grew up in a hunting town, Fort St. James, a small town on Stewart Lake, about 2 hours northwest of Prince George. And unlike so many killers that we see, serial or otherwise, Cody has no moments in his childhood that, oh, well, that's why he is.
So did this guy just wake up one day and just snap? See, right now he's saying he had no moments like this. What happened?
Is the way he is. There's nothing in his past where you can kind of point the finger and say, oh, that's why he's a fucking monster. He was a perfectly normal kid. He hunted, he fished, he was close with his family. He had a girlfriend, he had a good job, he did all his schooling. He was athletic, he was into sports, he was into clubs. Everyone who knew him either liked him or didn't have a problem with him.
Okay.
Everyone we've spoken to about the young man here in Fort St. James says they didn't see it coming.
When my friend told me it was Cody, our friend and stuff, and I couldn't believe it either. I was like, oh my god, that was Cody, because it's from your own town, right? So that's when you're like, this is unbelievable.
His reputation at this school was as a popular...
Sorry.
It was
What is that hat, bro?
Cody,
What is this?
our friend and stuff, and I couldn't believe it either. I was like, oh my god, that was Cody, because it's from your own town, right? So that's when you're like, this is unbelievable.
His reputation at this school was as a popular athlete. He was into country music and dirt biking, played minor hockey and soccer.
He attended all the family events, and every single member of that family would be shocked.
Yeah, I bet they would be.
That 3 more counts of murder would be levied against Cody Allen Legebokoff. Cody was linked swiftly to Lauren's murder. Well, besides what they already had, when they went through his phone. They had conversations between them on Nextopia and via text message, and they painted a clear picture. Cody would eventually change his story again, saying that, oh no, they had known each other, they were friends, he had picked her up from school,
Wait,
and then
what?
he had driven her into the forest, they had sex, and then she just lost it. She started beating herself up, punching herself with her fist, then she grabbed a pipe wrench out of his car, whacking herself, and then she grabbed a knife and stabbed herself to death. OMG. Cody would say, okay, he did hit her, but that was just to finish her off. Mercy killing, really. He's the good guy here. He did.
So his story went from, I don't know this person, to, yeah, we picked him up, some stuff happened, and then she started, trying to unalive herself with a wrench and a knife. But, I gave mercy and just finished it. And that, it went from not knowing her to that. I don't know.
Did her a favor.
I don't think either. I don't know, man. You now know both. Neither of those are true. That he probably just
hitting yourself, and I was more stunned and in awe. And at the end of it, I was just like, what the f is going on here?
Lauren Leslie had actually been suffering from depression. She'd been diagnosed with it. And so she presumably told Cody while they were chatting over Nextopia. And so I guess when Cody, found that out, he was like, well, putting that one in the back pocket, that'll come in handy. Oh yeah, she was depressed. She killed herself. Oh wow. The messages, though, said otherwise, to what he was saying. He was sending her all this sexual shit all the time. She was a child. She was not into it at all. She just wanted to hang out. Cody had other intentions. He had picked her up from school, driven her into woods, and then did what he did, and the evidence on him, around him, spoke, for itself. And when they searched his home in downtown Prince George, they found a shitload more.
Wait, what? So wait, how did his girlfriend not know that he had this stuff going on?
There was blood everywhere in his apartment in downtown Prince George. This is like that fucking Adam Strong back.
Wait, what? Oh my gosh, dude, this place was a wreck.
Bastard all over again. Jill's blood was on his couch. saturated.
Wait, oh my gosh! So, oh, it's under the couch. Wait, what in the world?
Cody had also moved after she was killed, and when the police searched his older basement apartment, they found more of Jill's blood soaked into the carpet. He had taken her back to his apartment when his roommates were away and killed her. The shorts Cody was wearing when he was arrested for Lauren's murder, they were tested, and Natasha's blood was on them, also on sheets in his bed.
So, like, none of his roommates ever, like, spilled a beer on the couch and was like, huh, why is this here? What is this mark in the bath? Why is the carpet like this in the bathroom, bro? Like no one asked any of this?
Bed and the carpet and in the bathroom. Also on the handle of an axe. She's still never been found, but she was likely chopped up and disposed of. And Cynthia, her blood was on his shoes and on a pickaxe in his apartment. Not good for Cody, but they solved 3 more murders.
What in the world? Like, I can understand being, like, young, I guess, and, like, the apartment being dirty. But, like, hey, nobody was, like, aware enough to notice any of this stuff. Like, what the heck?
And he was charged with all of them.
In Prince George today, the start of a distressing trial involving the murders of multiple women. 23-year-old Cody Legebokoff is charged with first-degree murder, accused of killing 4 women in separate incidents in 2009 and 2010. Kirk Williams has more on what the Crown alleged in its opening statement.
He was like 19 and 20. I wonder, like, I don't understand how, like, none of the roommates or his girlfriend never figured out or saw any of this type of stuff. Like, they've been to his house and oh my gosh.
The Crown outlined its reasons to the jury why Cody Legebokoff has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. It paints a very different picture from the fresh-faced young mechanic seen in pictures. The Crown says that he regularly used cocaine and got that cocaine from sex trade workers. Jill Stuchenko was found in a gravel pit. Cynthia Mays was found near Prince George. However, Natasha Montgomery's body was never found. The Crown says that forensic evidence will link Legebokoff to the crimes through DNA samples of the victims on his clothing, tools, vehicle, and his apartment furniture. The 4th victim, 15-year-old Lauren Leslie, was different. The Crown says they met online on Nexopia, and they agreed to meet.
Cody went on trial in June 2014. It seems that when he wasn't being a good little boy with his fiancée, he was getting high.
Fiancé? This guy was getting married, so he knew how to. He was an actor.
Doing the devil's dandruff. In fact, crack pipes were found in his car when he was arrested.
Wait, what? How did his girlfriend not know? Like, or did she just not care that he had the cocaine and the crack? What? Oh my.
2 of them. And that's probably what brought him into contact with Jill, Natasha, and Cynthia. Lauren, he found her on his own. During the trial, his defense attorney, when Cody took the stand, and he did take the stand, his defense attorney tried valiantly to elicit some kind of regret, some kind of sadness out of Cody at what he had done. About what had happened. Good luck! Was he able to? Was he fucked? No, you have to be human to feel emotion and feel.
I wonder if he was just up there like, yeah, I don't know, man, I just feel like bad things, you know what I'm saying, bad things happen, I don't really, you know.
Guilt or anything like that. Cody, it appears, doesn't qualify. He never expressed regret, guilt, sadness over the 4 lives he had ended, and of course he refused to take responsibility. He said not guilty to all of them.
Wait,
so why would he feel guilty? He told the jury that while he'd been present for every death, every murder, He hadn't done any of them, though. He'd just been there. Okay, well, he said, Lauren, she killed herself, apparently. He just put her out of her misery.
Wait,
and Jill, Natasha, and Cynthia, well, others had killed them. Okay, he had been partying with them. They were sex workers, so they'd gone back to his place. And then he said, well, some drug dealers and their acquaintances had showed up. Mr. X, Y, and Z. And they killed them. He refused to name them or, give the police anything about who these mystery men were. He would always just say Mr. X, Y, and Z. The reason he wouldn't name them was because he was like, well, listen, if you guys are going to falsely convict me, I don't want to be, I don't want to be a rat in prison. I'll get my head kicked in. So his excuse about these mystery men, these alphabet murderers, went down about as well as a wet fart. It was obvious as all hell what he was doing.
What if there were people that came in and did it? He didn't want to tell on them? I mean, Ollie, what are you doing underneath me, bro? Move your bone. I'm moving it. You're getting... There you go, over there, hang out.
He was convicted of 4 counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison, though the 4 counts of murder were to run concurrently. So he really only got 1 count of murder. But that's no parole for 25 years, and the judge highly recommended against giving any parole for Cody Legebokoff.
In handing down the sentence, Justice Glenn Parrott said there was no doubt in his mind all of the murders occurred while Legebokoff was committing or attempting to commit a sexual assault on his victim.
So if you're in prison, right, you have life. You have life in prison until you die. You die and then come back. Are you out of jail? I just wonder.
Justice Parrott picked apart Legebokoff's testimony, identifying numerous holes in his story and calling his tale of drug dealers X, Y, and Z a fabrication. With his throat choking in a rare show of emotion, Justice Parrott paused to control himself while discussing the grief witnessed through the victim impact statements. These are not the actions of a simple killer, he said, but of something infinitely worse.
There's all kinds of really, really gory, hoary movies out there. They don't even come close to what this guy's done.
They don't care.
What is he?
He a murderer.
And so ends the tale of Cody Legebokoff, Canada's youngest serial killer. He got the coveted title. Good for him. We cover a lot of Canadian serial killers, and they're all really weird. And here's another one. And though he was responsible for some heinous murders, there's a lot more along that highway which remain unsolved, and I'll get to them. Weird for Cody. Normal kid, seems that, well, I guess he wasn't after all. Odd how someone who, grew up so perfectly fine with no issues could end up doing what he did with no reason whatsoever. And the police never released a motive for what Cody was doing. Usually, there's some kind of inciting incident, right? Their first murder, and then they get hooked on it. It's seems like there's nothing for Cody. He just...
There y'all could find, though.
Was a monster. Cody Legebokoff? More like Cody, would you fuck off? Thank you so much for...
Not sure how I feel about this one. I would like to learn more about what this guy was about.